All right, Banditos, let's talk. Our favorite game just dropped a bombshell mechanic, modifiers. Some of you are like, finally, a reason to rethink my builds. Others are clinging onto the past. And then there's the quiet third group, who's off playing solo, avoiding group play, hoping things just work out. Sound familiar? Yup, we're diving into this debacle. Let's do this.
Piece of shit wristwatch.
We've got a lot to discuss, but while we dive into the talking points, I'm gonna matchmake on legendary difficulty. Let's see if I can get a full 4-man team before this video wraps up. Why? Because it's the perfect way to demonstrate what's happening in the Division 2 community right now. Some players are adapting, embracing the paradigm shift modifiers bring, while others are holding tight to how things used to be. It's a dynamic that's dividing the game, and honestly, it's tragic, but fascinating to unpack. So as we talk through the impact of modifiers, we'll see if the matchmaking experience itself reflects some of the broader trends we're about to discuss. Modifiers are the hot topic in the Division 2 community, dividing us fast. Love them, hate them, or avoid them, one thing's clear, they're here to stay. Because the devs already made a rare move to scrap seasonal characters when Season 2.0 wasn't clicking with the community. But let's be real, budget and timelines mean modifiers aren't going anywhere. They just don't have the resources to abandon this. Real quick, I want to make sure that the point of this video is clear. This is not about whether modifiers are good or not. It's about the fact that they exist and how different segments of the community is choosing to deal with this. And cutting to the chase, modifiers have completely redefined builds in the Division 2. The game has shifted, and damage isn't even the main conversation anymore. And I think that's pretty interesting, because we're not talking about minor incremental damage gains anymore. We're talking about multipliers that blow our old builds out of the water. Damage numbers we've never seen before. So when I see someone pulling up with their spreadsheet to try to debate the damage differences between build A and build B over a few points while pretending modifiers aren't part of the equation, my knee-jerk reaction is like, dude, we can give $100. Like when I can body shot crit over 3 million with an all blue build, what you're talking about just seems so irrelevant. It makes me stop and think, are we even playing the same game? What if we're not? Maybe those players aren't out of touch so much as hoping modifiers will fade away into the abyss. And I can understand that. They're not in a great place. But the reality is that the game has shifted, and it's no longer just about small incremental damage gains. It's about something much broader, much more dynamic. This brings me to an important question. What are we really doing here? How is the community adapting to these changes? To dig into that, I recently ran a poll asking players how they felt about modifiers becoming a core part of the Division 2. So the poll was simple. The question was, with modifiers now a core part of the Division 2, how do you feel about the game's future direction? If modifiers aren't your thing, what's your next move? Over 600 people voted. A solid 43% of players are ready to adapt, seeing modifiers as the next step in the game's evolution, which is a good sign for the developers. They've got a group that's on board with the direction the game is heading. On the flip side, 14% are sticking with non-modifier builds because they're rooted in a belief that the devs might backtrack if there's not enough adoption of the modifiers. Then there's the 22% who prefer to play solo and avoid group play. Finally, we've got 20% who are ready to move on from the game entirely. Sad. These players feel like modifiers change the core experience in a way they just can't get behind. For them, the game no longer aligns with what they want, and they see modifiers as permanent. So it's obvious, not everybody's happy about this shift. Nearly half are optimistic, but the other half are disengaged or even ready to walk away. For the developers, this is a tricky balance. They need to keep the momentum going for those embracing the new direction while finding ways to address the concerns of those still on the fence. But one thing must be clear, we cannot continue forward being split like this. The community isn't big enough, and we're leaking more and more players every day. The modifiers are in a rough spot, and with the devs so quiet on their end, we don't know for how long they're going to be stuck like this. For the player that's avoiding modifiers, the question is, for how long can the game hold on to that player? That population is at risk, and it's a matter of time before another game discovers them. But for the player clinging on to old builds, thinking that the devs are going to reverse the modifiers, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, guys. Between the resources already ported into modifiers and the timeline for the Division 3, which is at least 2 to 3 years away, modifiers are baked into the DNA of this game going forward. They're not going anywhere. So what does this mean? Is it simply adapt or get left behind? So really interesting place that we find ourselves in the Division 2. The bugs that are currently in the game, those especially around modifiers, are ruining the experience for those who even see potential for the modifiers. Even this community is at risk if the devs don't speak up soon. This is a trend that we've experienced in this game for far too long. I'm not here to talk you into modifiers. That's the devs' job. The reality is modifiers are here. They're live, whether we love them or hate them. And here's where all of this comes together to demonstrate a serious problem we have in the Division 2 right now, and where I gotta pump in a little sense of urgency. So we're still in the honeymoon phase of Season 2 and Seasons 2.0. We're in the very beginning of this season. It's the weekend time, and matchmaking for legendary missions has been horrendously long. It took me over 10 minutes just to get a single person to join District Union Arena, the most popular legendary stronghold. I didn't get the second player to join until 14 minutes, and finally it wasn't until 20 minutes in where I got a full group. I believe this is a result of a combination of things. One, people are choosing to play solo because they don't want to play with modifiers, and group is forcing you into modifiers. Even if the devs make it so that the group leader can decide whether modifiers are turned on or off, that won't really fix anything. Because as you can see in the survey results, half of the people are enjoying the modifiers. That's going to cause a lot of coming and going. In multiplayer mode, we don't have a big enough community to support that. That's going to lead into really long matchmaking. The other thing this might be showcasing is just how much of an impact those players who've decided to just not play the Division 2 because of the modifiers is having on the game. Whatever the case, it's really early in the season to have such bad matchmaking times. But here's the message I want to leave you with. I see a lot of heated debates among players about whether modifiers are good or bad. Honestly, the passion is great. It shows how much we all care about the Division 2. But when the debates spiral out of control into personal attacks and finger pointing, I feel the frustration is a little misdirected. So instead of fighting each other, we'd be better off channeling that energy into pushing for better communication from the devs, open channels for feedback, and ask for clear roadmaps for improvements. That way, we can work together to make this system way better than it is today. Otherwise, we're in for a long road ahead, especially with what's already been a challenging season for many of us. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is Tuxedo Bandido. That's Tito Bandido.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
This was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
When you buy a game from Ubisoft, enter the creator code Tuxedo Bandido to support the channel. Easy peasy. Now maybe this cheapskate can afford to sign me up for that dating app I've had my eyes on.
Follow me.
I get it.